at ya, at ya. Tell you what's messed up, coming at ya.
Wow. Well, TT, it's been a couple weeks.
Yes.
Together, but 2 more weeks that we've been at home. Oh my God. So it's time to check in and see how we're doing. All I girl. It has been a 2 weeks. So for me, I'm doing good, but I'm kind of in my feelings about yesterday. I'm used to a big Easter with my family, so I had to stay at home, but I got a chance to worship with them virtually.
Okay.
So good. My brother-in-law is a pastor, my sister's a preacher, my daughter's on the praise team, and my nephews. So they just have church without me right now. So I'm like in my feelings. But it was tough though, because we used to being with my mom and dad and taking pictures and just doing the family thing. So I think that's the toughest thing for me right now. As you know, I'm here by myself. My daughter decided to go where she can have 3-4 meals a day with her grandparents. So she's in the country and I'm by myself. So that's my biggest challenge is, being away from family, being away from friends. And, I like to talk. I like to be around people and I get my energy from other people. So I'm missing that. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good. As I said the last time, we're all zoomed out. But I realized that that's a grateful thing. Like I'm thankful for that because if I'm zoomed, it means I still have a job, right? And for me, I've worked at home for years and years, but it's just now everybody else is working from home. So it's giving me more work to do, but that's a blessing. So I'm excited about that. Mm-hmm. So just still staying in. I haven't been out much at all. So just getting used to that. So how's it going with you? You and Breezy over there.
Oh my gosh.
She didn't leave you like my baby.
Yeah. My baby hasn't left me. My son still is in Northern Virginia. He's doing great. But these are indeed different times, right? Easter was different. Within the last 2 weeks, I've experienced what a lot of people have experienced. I had a round of furloughs happen at my job, and I'm blessed that I survived that, right? But I also received a huge pay cut, which is significant, right? So my team, we really have been dedicated to rapid speed marketing. Because we're really trying to drive revenue for the company. So there's this responsibility that you feel like you have to bring folks back, right? Since it's a furlough. But then I'm working on supplemental income. I'm doing some workshops. The great thing about the workshops is it's a chance to give back because I'm teaching entrepreneurs how to develop strategies and marketing strategies to survive right now, right? So it's fulfilling, but at the same time, it's bringing in some supplemental things. For those who are interested in those workshops, I did post them on my Instagram at Miss Lio if they want to participate in them. But on the personal side, I have gotten a lot of news, as you have, Pam, like of family passing away, of folks who have COVID, in some cases, family who have cancer. And I'm constantly hearing bad news from back home in DMV, where there's a huge amount of our people who are getting COVID. So it's been a lot to deal with. It has been a lot to deal with.
It is.
It's been crazy. So I did get some good news. My dad's prostate cancer, which was stage 4 when we found out about it, is in remission. So that was great news.
Look at God.
Yes, it was great news.
That is good.
They wanted to attack the cancer that had made it to the bone quickly. So he had to go through radiation. And, when you hear that, you're like, okay, let's get it done. Well, it didn't hit me that meant my dad would have to go to radiation. I couldn't go in there with him, and that I had to take him home, and I couldn't be there for the side effects, which we know those could be violent side effects. So I had a couple of days where I was just anxiety and calling him constantly. blessing. He continues to be a miracle walking. You know how many different miracles he's had in just a year or two.
Yes.
He didn't have any side effects. So I was able to kind of come back. But it's just been a weird place. It's a helpless kind of feeling that you have with people are in, you know, in New York or in DC that I know that are struggling right now. So I am an introvert. You know, I'm the introvert. We're the yin and yang. And I am the introvert, right? So I was up until about a couple of weeks ago. I was good, but now this nurturing side of us beautiful women, right? This head of household for some, and even if you have a couple, if you're a couple or your partner, you feel like you are the anchor of the home. So all of that comes into play, right? So I have had to constantly focus on my mindset. And I've done a reset, and I've been working hard on that. So I'm meditating even longer. I'm reading and taking care of my mind. So that's top priority for me. Like other people are leveling up on business, I'm just focusing on keeping the mindset right, baby.
I know.
Through that, some leveling up on the business is happening. But that's what's been going on for the last 2 weeks, is navigating this pandemic, honey.
Yeah, it's been a very stressful time. You know, I've had my uncle died last week, something totally different from COVID-19. But as of Friday, now my grandmother's sister has been diagnosed with COVID-19.
Oh my gosh.
Virus in the rest home. And we could do a whole show on how the public can't get in, but the patients continue to get sick. So we know what that means. The employees are coming to work sick. So, you know, pretty frustrated with that, because she's laying there. She's not going out. How is she getting it?
Right.
So, but prayer, she's 88. I have a lot of health issues. She just can't walk. And so that's why, you know, she was there. So I'm hoping the fact that she doesn't have a lot of health issues will help her, that she'll be strong and be able to fight this. So we could list so many people that are going through. So it's just a praying time. And that's what, you know, we can continue to do, is pray for one another, pray for our community, and pray for our nation. And we're excited that, you know, since, you know, the last few weeks, we're always going to have dope guests, and we continue to do that today with the young lady that's with us, but someone that can impart during this time nuggets that our community can use and to uplift. We want to we get enough negativity. So today we want to be uplifted with strategies to cope with what we're going through. And so I'm super excited to introduce you to our guest this week. Dr. Margaret Brunson is here, and she's going to, as I said, she's going to discuss coping strategies during COVID-19, as well as a deeper dive into who do we want to be? Who are we now? And who are we becoming during this pandemic? So, and I really love the way she describes herself. So I want to say that Dr. Margaret Brunson describes herself. She's a leader, a luminary who loves Zumba. She can get down with she also considers brunch a verb. It's an action word.
Yes,
she finds boarding airplanes. Now we got to talk to her about, you know, she can't go anywhere right now, but I'm sure she's got her next trip planned. And this is what you two have in common. She has never met a dance floor that couldn't hold her. She spent the last 15 years loving and leading in education, public health, with a focus on working with mental health providers and nonprofit organizations and more. And you were talking about entrepreneurs. We love entrepreneurs. She stepped out on faith, and she is now an entrepreneur. And so she's going to tell us a little more about her business. She's an inspirational speaker. She's an author. She's the owner of the brand, The Love Life. Wait till you hear more about that. She's earned a BA in psychology from where? The University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Yes.
Tar Heel Pride in the house.
Yes.
She has a Master in Public Administration from North Carolina Central University, Eagle Pride Amplified, and her Ph.D. This is Dr. Margaret Brunson, her Ph.D. in Leadership Studies from North Carolina A&T. She is outstanding. And as excited as I am, I can't tell it like she can. So let's Welcome to the Art of Balancing It All podcast, Dr. Margaret A. Brunson. Hello.
Hey, thank you, Pam. That intro was like everything.
I want to go on the road. I want to go on the road with you.
You got it.
Welcome to our show. We are so excited to have you. So tell us a little bit, about yourself. But before you do that, we always want to start with you're in this with us. So how are you doing? How are you doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I check in with myself pretty much every day. And I think I'm just kind of taking it one day at a time. Like I wake up, I figure out what I'm going to do that day. I make sure I drink water, I feed myself, try to give myself, nourishing, healthy things, check in with the people I love. But yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm actually enjoying a slower pace, which is nice. So, yeah, it's good. I'm okay today. Now ask me tomorrow.
That's good.
Amen.
That's good. So what's been the most challenging thing for you before we dive in?
Well, so I heard you say that you're the extrovert and T said that you're the extrovert. I think I'm in between, like I'm an ambivert. So I'm an extroverted introvert. And I think it's just been like most difficult because my rhythm is just off. All of our rhythms are off. So some mornings I feel like I need to go out to a coffee shop and work. I can't do that right now, or just meeting up with friends who also work from home to get that energy and motivation. Just can't do that. So I think the biggest challenge is just being alone a lot more than I'm used to. But yeah.
That's good.
Okay. So tell us more about what you do and what types of shifts, if any, you have had to make for your clients during this time.
Yeah, so I do mainly consulting and coaching. So I work with organizations, individuals, businesses to help build like leadership development and organizational development frameworks. So I essentially teach people how to lead. And then I also help them teach other people how to lead. So most of my work is the same, except for I do a lot of speaking. And of course, that's been placed on pause right now. So I kind of miss like preparing keynote speeches or preparing to go to events. I know you can relate to this, Pam, but like just the energy of events and doing events, I just don't have that right now. But mainly I'm grateful, so blessed and grateful that I have work to do, plenty of work. And I'm working with some organizations now who I think really need me even more, because I think this is a time for people to think about the way that they lead very differently. So I know we'll talk about that later, but yeah, not too much has shifted in terms of my work, except for the events that I'm used to doing.
Right. I can tell you it's hard. I want to go somewhere. I want to do somebody's event. I want to grab a mic. It was just so much. It's very, very, very different. One thing that you do is you have an amazing blog. And so I was reading a recent blog that Homebodies and Heroes. And so I want you to kind of share highlights from that blog and give us some helpful hints that you did. It was just amazing on how you showed how to cope during this time. And you started out with move. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I ended up writing that. I put out a newsletter for my business. I do it maybe every couple of months because I know a lot of people get newsletters and they don't read them. It just becomes noise in your inbox. So I don't send out a newsletter as often, but I was trying to think about what can I offer people right now that's going to be helpful. I know a lot of folks are like going real hard on the business, marketing and trying to get themselves out there. And I just haven't felt the need to do that. But one night I decided to just sit down and write out all the things that I've been doing to get through this time. And so the three things were move, connect, and be. You're asking about movement. So I think a lot of what we're going through, because we live in a culture and a society that tries to tell us to disconnect from our bodies, we live this very like cognitive mental life where everything is about your thought process and your mind. And that's good, but we are also in a body, like we have a body. So we have
That's
to stay connected to our bodies. And one of the ways that I often stay connected to my body is through movement. So whether it's walking, yoga, dance, I love to dance. So I've been having my own little private personal dance parties in my house. And I think the picture on the blog was of me dancing at a grits and biscuits party, which I love those parties. But so yeah, movement for me is so important. And whenever I move, no matter how I move, I always I call it drop back into my body. It makes me feel human, because we're all going through this very human experience. So yeah, movement has been a really key coping strategy for me.
Right. I can totally relate to the moving. I told Pam last week, Pam was saying, it was just driving me crazy. I said, I have to go outside at least 4 to 5 times a day. And I have to work out, but that moving, and we had a dance party last week for the chicas on Zoom. You just have to, it just liberates you. It brings back the energy. So I can totally relate to that. Another important coping strategy that you discussed was connect. Talk to us more about the importance of staying connected while at home and ways to suggest that we can stay connected.
Yeah, so I started thinking about this because, of course, we're all really like zoomed out right now. Like everyone is on Zoom and virtual meetings all day long, and you're on your phone, you're on your laptop, you're trying to figure out ways to stay connected to people. And I think it's important that's important to do, but I also think it could be a distraction for us sometimes, especially when we need to connect to ourselves or we need to connect to God. So the ways that I connect, I really enjoy like being in nature. So you said you go outside a lot during the day. So do I. I have to I have to reconnect with this vast environment and world that we live in, because when you're in your house all the time, it's like you forget how much of a part of a bigger ecosystem you actually are. So I love connecting with nature. I love putting my feet in the dirt. I'm very earthy in that way. And I've been cooking a lot more. So, I used to love to cook, and then I started going out to eat because it's just easier. And I like for people to serve me hot food. But, being at home more has caused me to cook. And I just feel like that's another way to connect to not only myself, but to my spiritual center, to God. And then my favorite way to connect is silence, because I think there is so much noise, like TV, music, constant distractions, people. And I make sure I, turn off all my screens, no sound for at least maybe 15 to 20 minutes every day, just silence, not talking. And I think that has helped me as well. So
I love, love, love that you use a different definition of connection. That is so awesome, because you have to connect to the Most High. You have to connect to your spiritual being. And I just want to note that both of us have taken on cooking, and we're going to encourage Pam.
I knew that was going somewhere. And I was like,
I'm going to tell you, I have saved so much money. I have saved so much money cooking. Like, I'm just like, wow, I'm looking at my little app, that I'm saving a lot of money.
Okay, so we're going to go back to Zoom and we're going to connect, and y'all going to teach me how to cook, right? Okay,
yes, that's right. I would love that.
Oh, man. So during this COVID-19 pandemic, we found ourselves needing to trust God. We were just talking about connecting to God, but trust God more than ever. And churches are closed for worship. You pose a great question in your blog, and that is, what are some ways you suggest we can stay more connected to God now while at home?
Yeah, so I grew up in church, and my father is a pastor. He's semi-retired. I don't know what it means to be a retired pastor. I don't think he does either. But he and I and my mom were talking the other day, and we saw some of these photos that were floating around social media that says the church has left the building. And I love that, because I think for those of us who are, believers, people who follow God, or even just spiritual people, we have to know that like we embody God. Like if we believe in God, then we also know that God dwells within us. And so I think anytime that we can connect to the things that God has created, including ourselves, I think that's a way for us to connect with God. So, for me, I will like go outside and listen to the birds. And I don't know if you all have listened to the birds lately, but they seem to be really excited. I think they're happy that there are not so many people outside, because they're chirping louder, the trees are swaying, and it's just like, to me, that's a way to connect to God. I also think, prayer, meditation are tools that I use to stay connected. I heard you saying that you're meditating longer. I think that's a lot of us. Like we're being quiet for longer periods of time. We're listening. And then I think my favorite way to connect to God is breathing. I think God gave us our breath. And I think there's a lot of times that we don't connect to God through the breath. So anytime I feel lonely or sad or anxious about anything, I just start breathing. And I feel like in that breathing, I'm connecting back with God.
Yeah. I agree.
Wow. That's awesome. Powerful. Very, very powerful. You talk about in your article, you talk about the unknown. We talked about the unknown, just where we are in this place. And there's so many people suffering the loss of loved ones, loss of job. We have people that are now having to homeschool their kids, wearing masks, where we have to continue to wear masks after this. Just so many things. Will the normal be the same again? What is the new normal? Finally, you talk about a coping strategy centered around be. We're learning to be in the midst of all of this. So can you expound on what that looks like, the art of being?
Yes.
Now?
Yes. I really get excited talking about this, because it's something that I've talked about for a really long time. But I think, our tendency as humans is to do a lot of things. Like we do. And we're not human doings, we're human beings. And so I think anything that we learn to do or we choose to do should actually come out of a sense of like who we are, like our being. And so to be really is to just say like, hey, I'm enough. I don't have to necessarily do anything else. I can sit still. I can check in with myself. If I feel like binge watching something on Netflix, I will do that. If I don't feel like talking to anyone, I don't have to do that. I don't have to perform through this life. And I think this particular situation with COVID-19 is teaching us, like, when everything is stripped away, what do you have left? And it's not how much content you created, or what new projects are you pushing out, or what kind of business are you launching in this time. It really is like, how did you make it through? Like, how did we make it through this? And I think our being is what is going to lead us through this, not the things that we're doing, but actually the ways in which we're choosing to be in the world. So if it's waking up every day and just taking a shower and putting your clothes on, it's those things that like help us to just be okay with like our humanity. And I think that's ultimately what I'm saying when I say we need to be, is like we need to really tap into our humanity in ways that aren't about production and aren't about the things that we're doing.
Pam and I had a side conversation, and I wanted to bring that up here before I go to my next question. We were talking about what I call almost cyberbullying that's going on right now, where there's this stream of folks, and we have an active network of go-getters, of doers, as you would say. And so there's, in my timeline, there's this kind of, I did this, I'm doing this, I'm leveling up my business, this, I'm selling this. And you feel like there's almost this, if you're not doing this at this time, that you must not be doing what you're supposed to do, this productive American society, the way that we feel like we always have to be doing things. And like you said, just being able to make it through this new norm, being able to figure out what's going to keep you mentally well, or what's going to keep your family, especially if you have a family, what's going to keep them well. So I love that you brought that up, because I do see it. And I am a productive person, but I'm noticing that there's this kind of divide going on with folks right now. So that's a great segue into our next discussion of who are we becoming? Who do we want to be during and after COVID-19? There's no way we should come out of this the same. We agree on that. But let's discuss how we grow in the many different ways that you can grow in this pandemic that just doesn't have to do with doing, from the fear zone to the growth zone that we talked about before.
Yeah, so I heard my friend True Pettigrew on a live, on a Facebook live last week, and he said something that I've held on to. He was talking about how he doesn't believe that God caused this experience, but he knows that God does not waste experiences. And I totally agree with that. I think that there's so many opportunities to come out of this better. I wrote a post, I think it was the first or second week, I'm losing track of time, but I think there are opportunities for us to realize, like, okay, now that the whole world has slowed down and we're all sort of at a pause, and some of us even feeling like a standstill, I think that it's an opportunity to reflect and like really go inside of ourselves to say, what are the things that I was doing before this that I really don't need to pick back up after this is over? So even that, like, that productivity, that drive to like constantly do things to prove our worthiness, those are things that we can leave because they don't serve us. And so, that particular graphic around moving from fear to growth really is about jumping from your comfort zone out to what we call the courage zone. So this is like psychology. There's psychology that talks about how oftentimes we get stuck in a comfort zone and it's really not comfortable. The word comfortable is kind of an illusion. We're not comfortable in the comfort zone. It just feels very safe. There's no risk there, generally no risk. And one of the things about the comfort zone is that we feel like we're in control. And I think all of us, we know right now that there are certain things that are out of our control. And so I think once we realize that there are things outside of our control, we can either get stuck even more in that space of fear, or we can say, you know what can I learn from this and how can I grow? And I think ultimately those two things, learning and growth, require courage. It requires us to say, I'm afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's the difference between like being brave, which, we've all seen kids who climb up in a tree and they'll jump out. Like, that's bravery. There is no fear. They're not afraid. But to be courageous, the root of that word is heart. So core is heart, which literally means to take heart, like you do it afraid. And I think while so many of us are fearful, we also have an opportunity to move into spaces of learning from this, learning about ourselves, learning new skills that are going to take us, into the future. And ultimately, that's going to lead us to growth.
This is powerful, powerful. And if you're just tuned in, you're listening to Dr. Margaret Brunson on the art of balancing it all. This has been a very powerful discussion about the strategies to help during this pandemic, staying at home, as well as great nuggets for how to grow through it and come out better together. So Margaret, finally, I want to ask you, can you share with that person that may be listening, but they don't want to move, they don't want to connect, they don't even want to feel right now. They're sitting around the house in silence, or they're mad or depressed, and they're taking out on everyone around them, or maybe they're just alone, they're feeling really lonely. Let's talk to them. What would you say to them? How can they begin to control their own narrative that's playing in their heads right now?
Yeah, so in thinking about this, I would say I think there's certainly levels to it. I think if people find themselves, especially people who may have had mental health challenges in the past. I think this is triggering a lot of things for people. So I would say if people are really, really struggling to make that move, I would say they really need to seek help. And I know that this is a great time to like seek out counseling. You know, therapists and counselors are still making themselves available virtually. You know, they can look into their insurance to see if it covers it. If it doesn't cover it, you know, there may be some resources for people who need that information. And I can certainly share some information. But I will also say for folks who are just really struggling, trying to get into a groove right now, I would say just do one thing. Choose one thing every day that you can do. And it might change from day to day. So if it's today, I'm going to walk for 15 minutes, then go for a walk for 15 minutes. And if you feel sad still, come back in the house, lay down, it's fine. But you did that one thing. I think we push ourselves to like get over things too quickly. And I think there are a couple of small things that we can do to bring ourselves up that don't require a lot of energy and a lot of effort. You know, and I will also say, I think ritual is good. So, you know, some people have a morning ritual, some people have a nighttime ritual. And many of us are having to change those rituals now because our lives are different. But maybe creating a morning ritual or a nighttime ritual to just breathe, relax, you know, meditate, have a cup of tea. Even journaling, I think, is helpful during this time to write things out and to get it all out. And then if all else fails, I tell people to dance. Like we need to move our bodies, turn on some music, even if you're by yourself, and just move, because we have to, like, I think movement makes us feel alive. Dancing makes us feel alive. But I do want to stress and emphasize the importance of reaching out and asking for help if you need it, because we're all human and we all need help sometimes. So I would just say if someone finds themselves in a really stuck place, reach out for help.
That's good.
Okay. Well, before you leave, we want you to tell us about your trademark movement, the Love Life, and does it hit differently now?
So I'll tell you a quick story about how I came up with the Love Life. So I was in the grocery store one day and I ran into someone that I hadn't seen in a while. And so she and I were just catching up with each other. And she said, "Hey, how's your love life?" And I knew she was asking me like who I was dating or if I was dating anyone at the time. And I realized, like, especially as women, single women, particularly single Black women who want to be partnered or we want to have a significant other, that's like it's a big deal for us, like to know, like, okay, are you dating? Because in a way, it sort of gives us hope, right? Like, oh, she met somebody, you know, it's working out. Maybe something will work out for me. So long story short, I ended up like just chatting with her and telling her, like, girl, it's hard out here. But then I got home and I realized, like, there's so many other facets to a love life than just romantic love. And so I started thinking about, what does it look like to live a life of love, even in the midst of like desiring partnership or desiring a romantic relationship? What does the love life actually look like? And so I started shaping my perspective around love in ways that were much broader. And so I think, you know, to answer your question, does it hit differently? One, I mean, of course, the romantic side definitely hits differently because not no one. Some people are not able to date right now in the ways that we traditionally date each other.
Right.
So, but I think in terms of like love and community, there's so many opportunities for us to like show each other love, and even ways that grow our love for each other. So, you know, I have a really good girlfriend who teaches yoga. She dropped off a little COVID care package on my front stoop the other day, and she had just put like some cool things in there that she knew I would like. But that's love. Like, that's the love life. And we have opportunities all around us right now to not only love each other well, but love ourselves well. And I think we all deserve that. So yeah, That's the love life, and we have the opportunity to live it right now. So
That is
Love
so
it.
good. Love it. Oh man. One of the books that helped me get recentered this week was The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. It just gets quickly to the core values of giving and faith and intention. But what are some positive books or scriptures or quotes that you recommend our audience grab hold of during these times?
yeah, I love that question. So I've been reading a book called Essentialism, um, and the author's name is Greg McEwen, I think is how you pronounce it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's a really simple book, but it really is talking about how to live a life that is mainly focused on like purpose. So we actually end up saying no more, and we say yes to the things that really matter. And I'm such a purpose driven person, so the book for me I think is helping me to reorient some of the ways that I'm thinking about my work, which is helpful. But I would say one of my favorite quotes that I've gone back to in my mind recently is from Rumi. I love Rumi. And he said, the wound is where the light enters you. And so I've just been thinking about like, okay, this feels like a big wound that we're dealing with. But where is this light? Like there's light coming in. And so what's happening as this light is coming in? So I've really been focused on flexing some of my creative muscles. Like, I talked about dance, but also maybe painting, doing things that shift my mind away from, away. Flex is another part of my brain, right? I think we spend a lot of time in thinking mode. And sometimes we just need to do things that are creative. So I would say like, that's a really good way for people to find an opportunity to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. This has been amazing, which we knew it would be because you are amazing,
Thank
Dr. Margaret.
you.
And you have dropped so many great nuggets for us and for our listeners. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We got one question left, and we asked everybody. Of course, this is the art of balancing it all, and you do it all. You do a lot, and I actually need to get that book about learning how to say no. But tell us, do you think it's possible to balance it all? Work, family, friends, the love life? What do you think?
I think it's possible, but not all at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually like the word. I stopped using the word balance recently. I started using the word rhythm. And so I've been really trying to find different rhythms in my life. And I think every season has a different rhythm. I think that there are times where I think I'm balancing it all. And then there's a reminder to me that no, because something is going to suffer, like balancing meaning like all things being equal at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very difficult to do. And so I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to balance when really maybe sometimes we could balance a few things in a different rhythm, in a different
Right.
pattern. And it doesn't mean that those other things are not important. It just means that they can't be equal to everything. I think if everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of learned that the hard way because every summer, my birthday's in July, but every summer I would go hard, harder. Actually, every year I would go hard up until August. And then every August I would crash. I would get sick, some sort of sinus infection, waking up with headaches. And I think my body was telling me, like, you can't do it all. Like, you can't do it all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's right.
so for me, it's about rhythm. It's about finding the rhythm.
Love it.
Okay.
Love it. Love it. Tell our audience how they can reach you on social.
Yeah, so all of my social media is at MB is free. So Margaret Brunson is free. MB is free. And I'm on Instagram, Twitter. You can find me on Spotify. I'm on Facebook, all of the things. And my website is also the same. So it's www.mbisfree.com.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us this week on The Art of Balancing It All. Make sure to visit our website, theartofbalancingitall.com, where you can join our tribe and subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean, so you'll never miss a show. You can also follow us on social media at The Art of Balancing It All on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
If you love the show, please leave a rating on so we can continue to bring you amazing episodes. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you in what? Two weeks.